Hare Krishna. I am very grateful to be with all of you this evening. Special gratitude to His Holiness Chandramali Swami Maharaj, His Grace Ayaski Prabhu, dear friend Sridharji, Damodar Reddy is coming from California, and to each and every one of you. We have been discussing here at Govardhan Krishna's very beautiful pastime of lifting the Govardhan hill with the palm of his left hand and holding it for 7 days and 7 nights. At that time, Govardhan Hill was far bigger than it is now. It describes in the scriptures that when Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill, the peaks of Giriraj were penetrating outer space. But when Krishna left Vrindavan for Mathura, the Yamuna River, which is so wide and so deep and flowing so strongly, became like a trickle. And Govardhan Hill, it describes by Sanatana Goswami, its peaks in separation started falling to the sides of the mountains and crumbling, and as a whole, it sunk deeper and deeper into the ground. And for those of you who perform the Govardhan Parikrama the day after tomorrow, you'll have some idea of how big it still is. It's about 23 kilometers. But why is this pastime celebrated with such emotion, love? Because compared to other objects that the Supreme Personality of Godhead lifts, Govardhan isn't really so much. Varahadev lifted the entire earth planet. Anantadev has universes on his head. Karunadakshay Vishnu, simply by his exhalation, universes are pouring out of his pores. They pour from his pores. But what is so beautiful about Govardhan Leela is Krishna did it so playfully, so sweetly. As he was lifting Govardhan Hill for those 7 days and 7 nights, all of the cows, all the gopas, all the gopis were gathered underneath. He was playing his flute very sweetly, enchanting their hearts. He was personally reciprocating with each and every one of them by his glances. The gopis Krishna entered through their eyes into the very core of their hearts, and he embraced them and they embraced him for 7 days and 7 nights, just through their eyes. Krishna in Vrindavan he killed so many demons, and they were very powerful. There were some asuras at the time who had gigantic militaries that fought against Krishna. But the particular ones that came to Vrindavan were so powerful. They didn't even need militaries. They had such supernatural cities. They could change their form. And single-handedly they could destroy entire militaries. Putana, Trinavarta, Keshi, Aga, Arista. These were the most powerful beings in the universe. And we read so many various incarnations in scriptures of how Bhagavan kills demons. It's usually a very, very exciting battle. When Ram slayed Ravana or Kumbhakarna, it's pages and pages of warfare. But Krishna, when he's an infant child, he effortlessly, playfully kills Putana. When he's hardly 1 year old, he's carried into way into space by Trinavarta. And Krishna very playfully just hugs him by the neck and squeezes and smiles and chokes him. Aristasura, he was such a big bull. He wasn't actually a bull, he was a demon, he was an asura, he was a rakshasa. But he could assume the form of this bull. The hump on his back were in the clouds. And as he was galloping, the entire earth was trembling. Now, I was speaking with my dear friend Damodar Reddy just this morning. He's one of the foremost inventors of cache, what is it? Chips. Cache memory chips. And he was trying to explain to my very unscientific brain about how computers and the chips and everything, because that's what he does from the very pioneering days. And how you can take you take sand and make it into these silicon boards, and then you make these transistors, and there's billions of these little transistors in one chip, billions of them. Incredible. And that's just some scientific people who don't have any real mystic powers. They just have some good intelligence, and they're dealing with the gross material energy. And we see what they're creating. Now these yogis, through lifetimes of sadhana and yogic disciplines, they learned to actually tap into the energies of subtle matter, which is the background of gross matter. So they could change their form. They had the speed of mind. They were tapping into the very power of the crude state of ahankar or ego. They were superpowers beyond imagination. In Kali Yuga, people don't have these subtle scientific connections. So we think it must be some sort of mythology. But if you were to tell someone, even 100 years ago, about an iPhone and what it could do, they would say it is mythology. It's just a matter of what we know how to do and what we don't know how to do. So these asuras were really powerful. Aristasura, he was pounding the entire earth planet with his hooves. Any woman in the radius of where he was having miscarriages if they were pregnant. He had more power in his body than the nuclear bombs that our scientists can create. And he was angry. His eyes were red. There was practically fire coming out of his nostrils. He was so mad. And he was running toward Krishna. And Krishna's just standing with his arm on the shoulder of one of his friends. It's not like he got in some martial arts stance ready for the fight. He was just relaxing, holding a lotus flower in one hand with his arm on his friend. He just said, "Come, come, you rascal." And he's just a tiny little boy, and this gigantic bull comes charging at him. And Krishna, just with his little hand, he didn't make his hands bigger. Just with his tiny little soft hands, he grabs onto the massive horns of this bull and flips him over and throws him. The bull just flies and hits the ground, and the earth is shaking. And he's more mad than ever. And he attacks Krishna with even more ferocious, violent motives. And then Krishna just flips him over again. And then with those little, soft lotus feet, the gopis cry when Krishna goes to the pasture, thinking Krishna's feet are so soft. If you just touch them, they turn colors. Even the softest part of our bodies we feel might hurt him because they're so hard. His feet are so soft. That's how he appears for the gopis in Yashoda Mai. And with those same little feet, he kicked Aristasura. And they were millions of times more powerful than Indra's thunderbolt to Aristasura. And Krishna's not perspiring, he's not showing any anger, he's just kicking playfully, like we kick a little ball. And Arista passes stool and urine, and that's quite embarrassing for somebody like that. Publicly. And he's vomiting blood, and he dies. And Krishna does it in such a childlike, innocent, and sweet way, so much so that none of the Brijabasis think he's some superhero or god. They think Narayan must have blessed him. He's just our friend. He's just our lover. He's our child. The only time Krishna actually appeared to exert himself was Aghasura. Because all the other asuras, he was just little Krishna. But for Aghasura, he decided to expand himself very big to choke him because he was an 8-mile-long snake. This was a powerful mystic who assumed that form with a totally violent, malicious intent. His intent was to completely destroy the entire population of Vrindavan. If I kill Krishna and all his friends and all of his calves, everyone else will die of grief. And all the little friends see this 8-mile-long snake, and his mouth is open. And first they're thinking, maybe this is some plaything that has been arranged for us. So they were little boys. They were still in charge of calves. That means they weren't even 10 years old yet. And they were joking and talking about him and dancing toward Aghasura. And they finally came to a conclusion. Actually, this is not just some play piece for us. It's not a toy. This is actually a big demon who's come to kill us. But Krishna will save us. And smiling and laughing, they ran, they danced right into his mouth and looked at Krishna just before they went in. That's how fearless they were. And they didn't even know that Krishna's God. They didn't care if he's God. They just knew Krishna loved us. And Krishna's love can protect us from anything. He's just our little boy. He's vulnerable. If he's hungry, we'll do anything to give him some food. We don't want him to suffer. If lightning comes in the sky and he runs to his mother and cries, then she'll embrace him. But when a situation like this came, the little boys, it wasn't his power that they took shelter of. They just had total faith in his love. So they danced into the demon. And Krishna went in after they were all in. And the little calves who Krishna loved so much. And then the Aghasura closes his mouth. It sounded much more scary than what I just did. And it's pitch dark. And there's no air. And all the gopas and the calves become unconscious. Like dead. Now, all the friends are unconscious. Nobody, even the demigods, could see what's happening inside. He's all alone. That's the only time he exhibited some opulence. He expanded himself really big and choked Aghasura so he couldn't breathe. And then the Atma, the soul of Aghasura, comes bursting out from the top of his head as a light in the sky. And then his mouth opens. And Krishna glances upon all his limitless gopas and calves, and they all come to life, just like they just had a nice sleep. They don't know what happened. Nobody knows what happened. Somehow or other, all of us know what happened. By the grace of Sukadeva Goswami, and Srila Prabhupada, who translated it so we could read it. Krishna's so kind. He sees the potential in everyone. He sees the good. Because Aghasura, even though he had such a demoniac intent to genocide, exterminate the entire Brijavasi race, because the children were so happy and blissful when they danced into his mouth. Somehow or other, just at the moment of death, he was affected by the happiness of those children. And when Krishna came out of his mouth, his soul entered Krishna's body, and he was given spiritual perfection. Can you imagine? Scarier than Aghasura is Kaliya. He's also a snake. He was gigantic, with hundreds of hoods. He was so poisonous. Just his breathing made the waters that he was living in so venomous that the vapors from his breath in the waters, any bird that was anywhere near flying in the sky would drop dead. Every tree died. No life could survive anywhere near him. So cruel. And Krishna's friends and the cows, they drank the water and they all died. So Krishna glanced upon them and brought them back to life, and they don't know what happened. They were just looking at each other. And then Krishna dove in, and he started swimming around, and he was splashing. He's just a little boy, but he was splashing. And Kaliya was so insulted, kind of like Krishna did to Indra. Whatever the offerings of puja that was meant for Indra, Krishna said, give them to the cows in Govardhan Hill and the Brahmins. It was really insulting. Well, Kaliya really had this complex of janasya moho yamaham mameti, I and mine. I am this body, and I am all-powerful. And all these women are mine, and all this property is mine, everything is mine. And nobody dared trespass. And Krishna jumps in and is swimming around and splashing. He was infuriated. How insulting. You must die. And from the waters emerges this enormous, many-headed, super poisonous snake. His eyes were so red and so cruel, and his tongues were slithering in and out, and his fangs were gigantic. And he goes toward Krishna to bite him. And then he wraps his coils around Krishna. And Krishna, just to increase the love of all his devotees, he just looks like he's helpless in these coils. And the cowherd boys are fainting. And inauspicious omens started coming all over Vrindavan, and Nanda, Yashoda, and the elder cowherd men and cowherd ladies all came running to the spot. And they see their little Krishna helplessly in the coils of this enormous poisonous snake. This snake was bigger than the tallest buildings. And he was squeezing Krishna. Yashoda Mai wanted to fight the snake. But she knew she didn't have a chance, so she just decided to jump in the water. Either she dies but she can't see what she's seeing. But Balaram stopped her. He stopped her from going in. And Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men were going to go in and try to fight too, but they had no chance. Balaram stopped them all. And Yashoda Mai fell unconscious like a cow that just lost her calf, and the other gopis are trying to bring her back to consciousness. And then she opens her eyes and sees Krishna in this state. Heartbreaking. Only Balaram understands the power of Krishna. Balaram laughed quietly. Nobody could hear him. And he said, my younger brother Krishna is not in any danger. In my form of Anantashesha, he never plays with me like this. But look at how he's playing with this insignificant little water snake named Kaliya. So when Krishna saw all the Brijabasis, all the cows, all the calves, all the peacocks and all the birds and all the trees were literally on the verge of death. Krishna's Prananath. He's the Lord of their very life. Their love for Krishna is their only life. When Krishna's in danger, nothing could be worse. If it appears that Krishna is going to be killed, they cannot live. Krishna was in the coils for quite a long time. And they were suffering and suffering and suffering. But we learned through the science of bhakti that that suffering was not suffering. It was an intensified increasing of their love. Krishna was accepting that situation and putting his devotees in that condition to limitlessly increase the quality of their love. And their love increased to the point where they were at the verge of death. And then Krishna expanded himself a little, and Kaliya's coils increased, and he slipped out. And then he danced blissfully on the hoods of Kaliya. Now, we read about Narasimhadev and Hiranyakashipu. That was a big fight. But when Krishna was in the coils, he was just happily in the coils. And when it came to fight with Kaliya, he didn't use any chakras or swords or bows and arrows or clubs. He danced on him. And as he was dancing, it was so beautiful. The Brijabasis started singing songs for him to dance with. And the Devas were playing drums and making beautiful ragas just for this occasion. Most beautiful. So when Krishna's just 7 years old, and he's effortlessly lifting Govardhan Hill, and while he's doing so, he's facilitating the most sweet, intimate, loving exchanges with devotees. That is the uniqueness of Vrindavan. Krishna is he displays many, many great powers in various incarnations. But in Vrindavan, the supreme power that is in everything he does is his sweetness, his innocence. Because the sweetness and this innocence facilitates an ever-increasing intimacy of love with his devotees. Even on Kaliya, sometimes he would play his flute. When Krishna plays his flute, it's the love of his heart pouring in the form of beautiful music through his breath. And when it enters, the Yamuna River becomes motionless. The rocks and the stones start trembling and dancing. Srila Prabhupada explains, the little calves who are drinking the milk from their cows, they just become stunned and stop drinking. They're just holding their mother's udder in their little mouth, and tears are pouring from their eyes. And the gopis, they give Krishna's flute, the love of Krishna in the sound of his flute completely conquers their hearts and steals their entire being. their body, their mind, their words, their lives. They offer in love. And the peacocks, when they hear the flute, they begin to dance. And as they're dancing, the birds start singing and the flowers blossom. So limitless flowers on limitless trees are blossoming with such fragrance. And all moving and non-moving beings in Vrindavan, in the deepest, most profound, ecstatic state of samadhi, are reciprocating with Krishna's love, with their love. And Krishna appears as Govardhan. And in Govardhan, Haridas Varya, he teaches us what pleases him through his own service to all Krishna's loving devotees. 500 years ago, Lord Chaitanya performed the parikrama of Govardhan Hill. He began at Manasi-Ganga. The story of that place, Kamsa sent another one of these extremely evil murderers to kill Krishna. Sometimes they appeared in the most gruesome, terrible forms, and sometimes just to deceive, they appeared in different forms. So here is one of these really, really gigantic, powerful demons. He takes the form of a little calf named Vatsa, Vatsasura. And that little calf, he wanted to get Krishna and Balaram off guard. So one of the little calves didn't go out to the pastures that day. So this demon was so expert. He planned so strategically. He took on the exact qualities as one of Krishna's calves. And he was just so innocent, so sweet looking, but he was just waiting for the opportunity to kill. But Krishna knows everything. He told Balaram, "You see that little calf there? He's a demon." Balaram said, "I know." So yeyatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Krishna reciprocates according to how you want to approach him. So the calf was coming very secretly to get Krishna when he was least expecting it. So Krishna did the same thing. He was just kind of walking, walk behind the calf. And the calf is thinking, "Oh, he just thinks I'm a calf." And Krishna's just walking. And at the least expected moment, Krishna grabs his back legs and goes and swirls him around. And he whirls him around so fast that he dies of dizziness. And then he throws him. So the Gopas, cowherd boys, here at Govardhan, where Krishna would herd cows with the cowherd boys, they said, "Krishna, how could we play with you? Because you killed a calf. A calf is a little baby cow. You're Gopal. You should go to the Ganges, to the Ganga, to purify yourself." They were joking. But Krishna took as an opportunity. We don't want to leave Vrindavan. Let Mother Ganga come here. So Krishna, in his mind, he meditated on Mother Ganga and invited her to come to Vrindavan. And by the power of Krishna's mind, Manasi Ganga, a beautiful lake, one of the largest lakes in all of Brajbhumi. And in those days, it was a huge lake, filled with the pure, original water of Ganga. So Krishna and the Gopas were having so much fun, bathing and playing and drinking water from Ganga. And one day, some Brahmins were telling Nanda Maharaj, Rupananda, Abhinanda, Sunanda, Nanda, and Ananda Maharaj, that some stories from the scriptures, the glories of Ganga Devi. They explained that once Garuda, the bird carrier of Vishnu, captured a snake with his claws. And as he was flying with the snake, the tip of the tail of the snake happened to touch the water of Ganga. And because that water was so pure, the snake manifested a four-armed form of an eternal associate of Lord Narayan from Vaikuntha. And when Garuda saw that snake became a four-armed devotee, Garuda put that personality on the top of his back and became his carrier and directly took him to Vaikuntha for eternal liberation. So the Gopas were thinking, we should bathe in the Ganga. So they were packing their ox carts ready for their trips. And Krishna says, where are you going? They said, we're going to Himalayas. We're going to the Ganga to take bath. We heard this story. And Krishna said, there's no need to leave Vrindavan because Ganga's here. He said, what do you mean Ganga's here? He said, come and I'll show you. And he brought them to Manasi Ganga. And they were saying, this is just a lake. How is this Ganga? And Krishna smiled. And right before their eyes, from the water emerged Mother Ganga, riding on her celebrated crocodile carrier. And she smiled and confirmed that I am here. And then all the cowherd men and all the gopis, they all bathed in the Ganga. And this happened around the time of Deepawali. So we offer lights, the appearance of Manasi Ganga. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his bath there to begin the parikrama of Govardhan. Then he went just a little up a hill to the temple of Haridev. The story is that Govardhan was the springtime place of Krishna's Ras Leela with Sri Radha and gopis. So one time, Srimati Radharani and the gopis were waiting for Krishna. Yugayatam nimeshena chakshusha prabhrushayatam sunyayatam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of Sri Radha, is teaching us the depths of ecstatic love one can receive through the chanting of the holy names. Shikshastakam begins Cheto Darapanam. In our state, our hearts have become quite dirty places. When you look in a mirror, you're supposed to see yourself. But when the mirror is covered by generations of pollutions, all you see is pollution. And you think that's me. In a similar way, the mind is like a mirror. It's supposed to reflect the seer, the eternal soul. Jivara Swarupoy Krishna Nitya Das. The soul is eternally a loving servant of Krishna. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajya Kabuna. Eternal love for Krishna is within. It's the nature of every soul. But when the soul looks through the mind in this world, it's supposed to see itself. It's supposed to see Krishna. But all we see is I'm a man and I'm a woman, I'm this color or that color, and I want this and I fear this. So much egoism, so much arrogance and depression and all of these things we're seeing. But the chanting of the name cleanses, because Krishna is not different than his name. Nam nama kari bahuda nija sarvashaktis. Krishna he's present in the name. He is the name. And all of his potencies, his beauty, his sweetness, his love can be realized in the name. Hare Krishna. And he has many names. Anandam Buddhi Varudanam. It awakens the ecstasy of that love that we're all yearning for. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through Shikshastakam gives us such a synthesized, condensed explanation of the path of bhakti. It comes to the point where we don't want anything. Na danam na janam na sundarim kavitam vajagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishwara bhavatag bhaktirohoita kitvai. I don't want wealth of the opposite sex, and I don't want fame, and I don't want power or prestige. I don't even want liberation from suffering. I only want to serve you, my Lord. I only want to please you, my Lord. And the verse just before this teaches us what we must understand and realize to even come to this point. Trinadapi sunichena, taror ibasi hishnana, amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. If we actually want to develop that true aspiration for pure love, we have to aspire to be more humble than a blade of grass, tolerant, forgiving, more than even a tree, eager to offer all respect to others and not being plagued by the pathetic weakness of craving to be respected and honored. As long as that's there, we can't taste the sweetness of the name. We can't truly aspire for pure love. But if we're chanting the holy names with the right consciousness, with the right service attitude, with the right association, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram. Our only ambition, our only aspiration is just to be a little particle of dust at the feet of Krishna.